Here we are again, me about a month behind the times, taking a look at a set that a lot of people, well actually two sets, that a lot of people were really excited about, and then they came out and everyone's already talked about them. I guess in my defense, at least this time I didn't wait like 4 years to talk about them. But yes, as you can clearly see, today we're taking a look at the recent Legacy 2-packs that came out for the kind of pre-war versions of Optimus Prime, or in this case, Orion Pax, Shockwave, Megatron, or Megatronus, I forget exactly how this breaks down in IDW, and Ratbat, or I guess if we really want to get technical, Data Clerk Orion Pax, Senator Shockwave, Senator Ratbat, and what is it, just minor Megatron? As in one who mines, not one who's underage. So yeah, I just figured since everyone's already talked about these two sets to death, I'm just going to take a look at both of them at the same time. And since I'm taking a look at both of them at the same time, I'm just going to try and gloss through it as quickly as I can, which for me means this video is probably going to be close to an hour long by the time all is said and done. Let's just get right into it. So, yes, the 2-packs are separated in the center by how they come. So you got Megatron and Ratbat, who were one set, and then Shockwave and Orion Pax, who were the other set. And I have mixed feelings on these two sets. Mostly this one. I mean, I don't hate them. It's just there are certain things about them that, like, with the exception of Ratbat, I have kind of like, it's like things that I like and some things I'm kind of like, oh, I don't know about the rest of them. Yeah, Ratbat is, yes, I like Ratbat. So I guess let's just go left to right. Let's get these two big fellows out of the way and take a look at the slightly smaller fellows first. And since we haven't looked at the Siege Hound mold in a very long time, let's start with Orion Pax. And it's the Siege Hound mold. That's all it is. It is remolded a little bit, specifically up here, like in particular. That's very obvious. And when we get to robot mode, the head is also very different. But it's Siege Hound with an axe. And it's fine. I mean, I think this looks good for what it is. I kind of like the more simplified primary colors that they've got going on here. Like, I mean, I know primary colors sounds like an insult. I do not mean it as such. It's just the blue is like, it's not just, you know, textbook blue, but it's really close to textbook blue. Same thing with the red. It's like, this is the kind of stuff that I feel like I'd see on like a color wheel or a basic example of just color theory or something, and I think it works here. I do like it. I don't think this is like a play school thing or anything like that. I just think it's interesting to note that like the colors are much brighter than I'm used to seeing on a lot of modern Transformers, with the exception of like those G2 repaints that are coming out right now, and those look amazing. And I managed to snag a pre-order for the G2 Grimlock, which is ridiculous because that'll make 3 versions of the Studio Series 86 Grimlock mold that I own. But the thing is like bright toxic yellow with blue tiger stripes. I couldn't not. Anyway, yeah, the colors on Orion Pax, really nice. I really like this light blue that they used for the windshield section. It does, because it's bright and the gray plastic that it's on is pretty light, it does kind of get lost a little bit in here, but it is a nice shade. That light blue definitely pops better against the red. And then, of course, you got the nice silver details for the bumper. They painted the rims, which is nice. And that's pretty much it for the paint. Like, the paint is just rims, windshield, hood section, and that's it in vehicle mode. So yeah, and also, like, the vehicle mode is just straight up Siege Hound. It's a chunky Cybertronian Jeep, but it works for what it is. And then you've also got the weapon storage, which the weapon storage is the same as with Siege Hound in that you can store the little drum back here, gun up here, and then you have the axe, which stores up here. And then if you wanted to, you could peg stuff onto the sides and the usual ports that are around. yeah, it's a good enough Jeep mode for what it is. Now, Shockwave is, as everyone knows, a remold of the Siege Tetrajet mold, which is basically, I guess, the modern equivalent of Combiner Wars Silverbolt. And I don't know how accurate it is. Same deal with Orion Pax. I don't know how accurate he is either, but like, it still looks okay. I like the color breakup. It's definitely a bit more basic with Shockwave than it is with Orion Pax. Like, Orion Pax has a lot more different defined zones of color. Shockwave, it's like blue with a little bit of red and a little bit of light gray and a little bit of light blue that is just a... I don't know how well this is coming across on camera. It actually looks white on my screen. But this is actually light blue. This is the same color as this. And that's not great. Like, I don't hate it or anything, but it's just, it doesn't separate itself out as well as it does here, even with the tone blending here. But yeah, it's the Siege Seeker mold, and the problem with this is, as a lot of people have noted, you've got these enormous boosters that replace the wings, and then you've got these tiny little winglets, which I don't care. I think it's fine. This is a Cybertronian mode, so who knows? Maybe aerodynamics don't really work the same. Maybe he's just intended to fly in space because he's got these enormous boosters along with the smaller ones. I don't know. What I do think is kind of fun, though, is like the tiny wings, as tiny and ineffectual as they seem, like, you've got options because they peg in and move up and down. So like, if you wanted to have forward swept wing look, you could do that. I actually tested this out for the first time before starting filming, but if you wanted to plug the winglets into what become the robot's shoulders instead of the forearms, you could do that too. Have them sitting all the way back. And that's actually not a terrible look. I kind of like how that works. But yeah, you've got options with where you store the little wings, and it is what it is. It's probably not the best use of all this, but like, I believe they wanted to get the robot mode accurate more than the vehicle mode. But yeah, I think Shockwave is cool for what he is, and until we get to the robot mode, the only thing that's really different on this versus the regular Seeker mold is the giant boosters on the sides and what becomes the robot chest. But I will say, I do think it's kind of nice how there are these notches inside the chest that give you just the perfect amount of space for those heels to sit. I like that. Yeah, it's Seeker with no wings. That's what Shockwave is. Now, Minor Megatron. Minor Megatron is the Earthrise / Siege, primarily Siege, I think. Megatron tank mold, and it is fine. I'm less into this tank mode than I am the Siege tank mode, because the Siege tank mode actually has more of a cohesive turret section. It has a fancier barrel. This, as a drill tank, I think this kind of doesn't work. And this is like a fan mode thing that I've seen a lot of people do, and I agree. I think this looks better than the default, because the default is you pull off this piece entirely and keep this pegged into here, peg this in here, and then this just like sticks on the side. And that doesn't. It just doesn't. And yeah, I'm just not into that. So I prefer the fan mode, because it at least gives it a little bit more of a cohesive tank turret look. Slightly. And yeah, I just don't like this mode as much as I like the Siege, not Earthrise, the Siege tank mode. But it all comes down to the turret. I'm hoping that we eventually get upgrade kits that kind of flesh this out a little bit more. I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but I feel like they could come up, like DNA could probably come up with something that's like a piece that fills this out and still utilizes the drill and then like becomes a shield or something in robot mode. I don't know. But as is, I think this is okay. Just not my favorite. I will say though, I like the colors they used on this. The dark portions are like this kind of weirdly metallic and pearlescent, very slightly bluish gray that is really appealing. I don't really understand why, but I really am into the color that they used for, like the primary color that they used for this specific version of the figure. And the caution stripes stand out extremely well on there. And I think I really need to adjust some things because this just doesn't quite look right. I feel like I'm blowing out all the detail with this lighting. I don't know what's going on. Turn down the front lighting a bit more, I guess. All right, well, it's the best I can do for now. But yeah, it looks really, really good. I do kind of wish that the, as I said, this was not as messy. Also, like this going back here, I wish this was a bit longer so that this could plug in back here and kind of fill out the turret section, but oh well. And turning it around the other way doesn't really work because just the way things line up, yeah, you end up with even more of a gap back here if you flip it over because the tabs are like up here. I will say though, I do like this neon purple pink that they have for what become the blades on the pickaxe. That's a really nice color. I really, really like that. And of course the silver for the drill is really nice. Yeah, like from here, like this entire bottom section, molding wise, is either very similar or identical to the Siege mold. And you can kind of tell that these bits are a little different, but we'll see more of that when we get to the robot mode. But yeah, I really like the colors, as I said. I definitely like the robot mode. I'll talk about that when we get to it, but I just am not as into this specific mode for Minor Megatron as I am the Siege version. What I am definitely into is Ratbat. Oh boy, this looks so good. I had no problem with Studio Series Scourge, but I'm not really into Scourge that much. What I am into is Soundwave, and by extension Soundwave's minions, so I have a number of Soundwaves and Soundwave minions, including Ratbat. And yeah, I always really like the look of Senator Ratbat. And this works for Scourge, and it's not the first time they've done it either, where they've turned a Scourge figure into Ratbat, and it works. It works really well. And yeah, he's the Scourge alt mode, the exact same thing, except right up here where you've got this really nice molded actually and painted detail here that looks a little bit like an angry bird face, probably meant to be an angry bat face, or evoke that feeling. And then you've got what is Ratbat's head just sitting right up here, but because it's not Scourge's head, he doesn't have the little thing on top, so you've got two of these little whatevers back here rather than three. Other than that, it's same mold for this anyway. You can take the gun on the side, you don't have to, but it's pretty much the only place you can keep it. And yeah, I have seen some simple fan moding on online, I think on TFW, which makes a lot of sense, where you can like fold these out and it just changes the profile of the space boat a little bit and gives it a little bit more of like a Batwing look. And I think that actually works pretty well. It gives it kind of like a hydrofoil impression almost, and it does give you some kind of Batwing effect for the alt mode, which I think works for Ratbat. I'm going to keep them tucked in this for the sake of space, but just saying, like, that's a thing you can do, and it does look pretty good. And the colors on this are great. It's very, very like a simple color palette for Ratbat, especially, where you've got this, like, these nice shiny and in some cases matte based on the plastic blacks, and then this really deep purple, which I am very much into. The black and purple are, you know, it makes him look really dark because the purple is very dark, and of course black is very dark, but I think it works enough, and because of the primarily darker tones across most of the figure, the lighter tones, like the gold accents, stand out really nicely. And yeah, it's just a spacebar soap, and the real draw of this guy is the robot mode, but vehicle mode is good. And yeah, let's move on to size comparisons. This is going to be a little bit tricky because of everyone. I think I'm going to do it 1-2 pack at a time. Let's zoom out a little bit here. So we've got Shockwave and Orion Pax, and we're going to bring in our standard size comparison crew. There is Artfire, and here comes Rotor Storm. And oh, there you are. Got Samus. Burnout. I need to adjust the camera. And don't think I forgot, also bringing in Ova Prime. So there is this particular group of size comparisons with the standard crew, and bringing out Burnout here, you can see that it's not a lot of size difference between Siege and Legacy in terms of deluxes, at least in these particular cases, so there is that for anyone who is worried or upset about the size changes. And since we've got all this set up, let's get these two out of the way real quick and bring in Ratbat and Megatron. Adjust the camera again. Goodness. But yes, there are the two Voyagers crammed into the shot there. And let me get all these out of the way so we can bring in our final vehicle mode size comparison. I am just knocking into everything today. Guess my coordination's been thrown off. I don't know, maybe I didn't get enough sleep. Oh no, what am I saying? I definitely didn't get enough sleep. Solidarity for all of you who suffer from insomnia. It sucks. Anyway, there are Megatron and Ratbat with... Oh, okay. Shift that around a little bit. There are Megatron and Ratbat with the Duck Tank. And there are Senator Shockwave. I guess I should have called him Senator Ratbat, but eh. Shockwave and Orion Pax, also with the Duck Tank. Truth be told, there is a part of me that wants to just, say, we'll cut to the robot modes because I've done the transformations on a version of every single one of these figures at least once on the channel. But honestly, it kind of bugs me when people are like, oh, you can look it up and stuff. And I've done this in the past. I completely own up to that. But like when I'm watching a video, it's kind of like, yeah, but I don't want to do homework. I'm watching this video. So I'm going to do the transformations. I'm going to try and go through them relatively quickly because we are already at 20 minutes and oh boy. But before we do that, just want to say if you like this video, can't see why, but if you like this video or any of the other videos that I've done on the channel, you want to support the channel, I do have a Patreon, link in the description. It's a single $1 tier, gets you early access to videos and supports the channel. If you'd rather support the channel in a non-monetary fashion, you can always like, comment, subscribe, do the typical YouTube engagement stuff. Or there is a different link down in the description for a Discord server for an overseas website called ShowZ that I do a lot of purchasing from. They primarily sell like Masterpiece, third-party, and knockoff stuff. And good prices, generally free shipping to the US, extremely good customer service, and at any time you join the Discord using that link, I get a little bit of store credit that can go towards buying stuff in the future. So that's another way you can support the channel. With all that said, let's start transforming this stuff. And I'm going to start with Orion Pax because this is the one that has not, or this is the mold that has not been on the channel the longest. So I'm going to unpeg the weapons as you do and take all that off. The drum thing has this little tab that tabs into the side of the gun, and that fleshes that out. And now to actually properly transform this, I'm going to disconnect the wheel wells from the front here and just kind of hinge these back. Unpeg and hinge. Come on. Why aren't you hinging? Why? Oh, that's why you're not hinging. Okay. I actually want to unplug the arms. There we go. Then pull this up, split the legs, and rotate this out. Hold down this bit will become the toe, bring that up, fold this in, and this will peg into this little peg right up there. Same deal on this side, toe, fold up, fold in, peg in. There you got legs. Take the arms and bring them out. Fold the chest section down. And you want to, like, this will come up with it, but it only comes up to a certain point. So bring that down, fold this in, and now the arm plates will kind of clip over these sections on the torso to lock everything together. This comes down, and this pegs in just above his butt. And fold that back, and then just straighten out the arms and wrists. Because yes, he has wrist swivels. And there we've got Orion Pax in robot mode. He is Siege Hound. We will look at him later. Shockwave, same deal. I'm going to leave the winglets on just to show you that they can stay on for the transformation, but you can take them off if you want. I like to fold down the feet so that it can unpeg the torso and pull that out and just kind of hinge that down. Want to unplug the boosters from the arms here, and they also kind of sit under the nose cone there. You want to unhook that so you can bring that entire assembly up. So unplug, swing up, take all of this, bring that up, unplug the arms from the sides of the legs and swing them back. And I like to bring them out to get them out of the way. Rotate this panel section down, flip out the wrist, and then extend the arm out, close that back up. And then again, I don't know why this is so tricky. There we go. Open, swing, extend, close. Now, bring down the legs, and they kind of loosely settle in here at these tabs. They don't really peg in, but it keeps them in place for vehicle modes. Bring those down, straighten out the feet, open up the foot and heel, or toe and heel, rotate the waist around 180 degrees, bring this chest piece down, and bringing that down will start to pull up the head. And once that's up enough, you can pull the head up the rest of the way. Bring this down and peg it into the torso. And in this one, it actually kind of clicks in place. It settles in really solidly. Now, for the backpack, split the nose cone and rotate it all the way up 180 degrees. Take this little panel behind the head and unpeg it from the back of the head and straighten it out. Then bring this assembly down so that these pegs will tab in here, and these little notches on the side of this plank will go into these little bits here. Or I guess tabs will go into notches, not the other way around, but yeah, it might help to angle it a little bit. So it's a little tricky to get all of this lined up, but it is doable. Oh, actually, another thing is unpeg this section, bring it up on that double hinge, swing it around, and tab the little section in down there. Now, I'm going to bring this down. And it is tricky, but it does kind of go. And there, that's in place. That's all locked in. And there we have Senator Shockwave in robot mode. And we will again be looking at him in more detail in a couple of minutes. Minor Megatron, it's Siege Megatron's transformation minus what's going on up here. So I'm gonna unplug these elements and plug them together to make his little drill thing. Going to, we'll leave this tab, no, we'll take it apart. So unpeg the arm from one side of this accessory, unpeg the other one, and just take that off to the side, and just leave this as it is for now. Going to unpeg the legs from here, and I like to grab this panel just to keep it from flexing. So unpeg, swing this panel down, bring out the leg, straighten it out, close this panel back up, and now I've actually realized I've been doing the transformation for Siege Megatron wrong. What I've been doing before was just bringing the leg up like this, and then like bringing this down and like rotating it like this by just bringing the hips straight out. That seems to put a little bit of stress on the connection. So what I realized is actually what you're actually supposed to do, I believe, is rotate the hip. So that's why when I unpeg this, straighten all this out, close that up, that's why now instead of just bringing the leg down, I'm rotating the hip all the way around and bringing it out. And I don't know how necessary it is. It's something I've been seeing a lot of people do lately, and it definitely feels like this connection is a little bit less scary doing it that way. Anyway, rotate the waist 180 degrees, unplug the treads from here, and they plug in like right along here. And then this whole thing comes up. Then kind of push this past this. I wish there was a better way to do that, but fold in the treads, bring this panel back in, and that'll tab into the sides of the treads. Rotate these pieces around, and they will kind of hook into the torso. And because of the way I had this transformed, I have to rotate the arms. You don't necessarily have to, but do that, bring out the fists, and then bring this piece back, and that'll settle into place. Line up on the back, and pull up the little head plank. And there we have minor Megatron. Oh, wait, no. One more thing we gotta do. Gotta unclick the ankle tilts. But the connection on the heels here for this particular figure, minor Megatron specifically, is a little bit tenuous, and sometimes if you pull, you might pop the foot off, so I find it's best to push on this panel instead. Do that to unlock the ankle tilts. And there we have minor Megatron, and just gonna plug his little drill fusion cannon into his arm. And we'll get back to his accessories when we get back to him. Last one, Ratbat. Same as Studio Series Scourge. It's gonna unplug the gun, that off to the side, and then flare these out. Going to unpeg this little center piece. You can see how it's split into 3 pieces. Just unplug that, and then pull this out. It connects up here and up here, so pull this out a little bit so that you can swing this up. Same deal here. Untab, pull out, swing up, and then you can unplug this seam in the center and hinge this entire assembly out to the side. Now, I'm going to fold that up, just to get out of the way, unplug this panel from what is the backs of the legs, and we'll get the torso short up. So, I want to fold this all the way in and in there, accordion this forward and back, and then it'll tuck into the torso like that. Fold this panel down, and with that panel folded down, you can now plug these little kibble bits into these tabs here. And I noticed on Ratbat it requires a little bit of kind of pushing things down and into place, but it does work. Then for the kibble chunks, you want to fold this in, hinge this up, and there you've got the wings. You want to keep this bit out, but fold that in, keep that out, hinge that up, and there are his kibble wings. Unplug the forearms from the sides of the legs, bring that whole section up, and plug that in here to finish making the torso. Like so. Split the legs, and then fold out the toes, and fold out the heels, which is weirdly tricky. I don't know why they don't have like an easier tab on the heels to pull out, but pulled all that out, and there we've got Senator Ratbat as Senator Ratbat. And oh boy, that's 4 quick transformations. I am a little bit tired. Let's bring everyone in so we can see them all together real quick before we start going through stuff extremely quickly. Why did I decide to do 4 figures at the same time? The things I do. Okay, so here we've got our various 2-packs. Megatron and Ratbat and Shockwave and Pre-Optimus, and they're very cool sets. I like them both, but as I said, like Ratbat is the absolute star of the whole thing for me. But here's how they all stack up together. And I do think it's kind of interesting how, despite the fact that these 3 are all Voyagers, Megatron is actually noticeably larger and beefier than the other 2 Voyagers. I just think that's interesting and fitting. Okay. Gonna go back, do the left to right thing again. So get all you out of the way. And start with Orion Pax. And he looks good. The color breakup is kind of what I expected. He's got a very Optimus Prime color palette, albeit a little bit, basic. Like I said, it's kind of like a standard colors, not in a bad way, but like the blue is very blue, the red is very red, that kind of thing. But it works. I like the separation. Blue legs, red torso, red arms. It works for Optimus Prime, or who will become Optimus Prime. The gray for the thighs, midsection, biceps, and fists also works. I love that they got this little shock of yellow in the waist section to evoke that classic Optimus Prime pelvis. Is a sentence I just said. And of course, like the torso and head look really good. We'll look at those in a second. The only thing that's kind of disappointing about this robot mode is the fact that you only get new paint in the waist section and the head. The rest of it is what you either saw in vehicle mode or there is none. I do kind of wish he had a little bit more color in the shin sections or in the biceps. Mostly the shin sections though, because they are so large. It's just this big square chunk of basic blue. And then you've got the gray and then the blue, but this blue is broken up by yellow, and yeah, not the worst, but I feel like even just a little bit of paint, like maybe some yellow or something on those knee pads would have made a big difference. Possibly even like some gray or some silver on the shins to evoke what will become his shin vents. I don't know. But he looks good for what he is. Now the head is actually one of the things that drew me to this figure the most. The torso design I think looks really good. This kind of reminds me a little bit of like the IDW Prime design, specifically what I saw with like Mastermind Creations Optus Texas and Optus Nox figures. Just that like kind of down arrow grill thing. It evokes that feeling for me. I think it looks really good. The silver stands out really nicely. The red is really sharp. The light blue is really sharp, like I said. But like that head is really nice. I like how it has kind of a classic Optimus Prime shape to it, especially with like little ear bits and the whatever that thing is. Like it almost looks like a kid wearing an Optimus Prime helmet without the faceplate, which I think works because, Orion Pax. But like the face is also really interesting because like it's hard to explain. It's just, he's very handsome. It's a handsome robot face sculpt. And I really like the separation of the white and gray. It's hard to see, but they did like a little bit of gray around the edge there. And that looks really nice. And of course the light blue eyes. It all looks really good. And maybe I'm a little partial too because this little chin thing reminds me of my own little chin beard. But I just think this is a really nice head sculpt. It looks really good. It's really nice and crisp, and the colors are really nice. They work really well together. As you can see for the articulation, the head is on a ball joint, so you get a little bit of back and forth. Actually, a lot more than I expected. Side-to-side tilts, some up and down, not a whole lot. And then it can rotate. But, that's expected. The shoulders can go all the way around. They can go out. You get a bicep swivel, you get 90 degrees of elbow bend, and then you get a wrist rotation. So that's really nice. You do get a waist swivel. Rotating the waist will probably, yeah, because this knocks into this, so it'll unplug this, but you can rotate the waist all the way around if you want. And I need to zoom out so you all can see what I'm doing. The hips can go forward 90, back 90, out slightly past 90. You get a thigh swivel that is set in, so you can't go in with the thigh swivel much, but you can go out a pretty decent way. And you get a 90 degree, slightly under 90 degree bend at the knee, and then because of the transformation, you both get ankle tilt, and you can kind of wiggle the toe up if you want. So articulation on Orion Pax is pretty good. I mean, it's a siege mold, so that's kind of when they really started getting into the articulation more, so that stands to reason. And then, of course, you can give him his weapons. You can plug the gun into his hand or shoulder if you want. You can plug the axe into his hand or shoulder if you want, or into his forearm if you want, though I wouldn't recommend it because I'm pretty sure that this piece is blue plastic that's painted this gunmetal color. So if you use these pegs, you run the risk of rubbing the paint off. But you can just plug this into his hand, and now he has a pretty cool looking axe. It's a shame, though, that these pegs are practically useless because of the paint that's on them. But it's fine. And I do think he's a pretty neat figure for what he is. Like I said, I was mostly drawn to that really handsome head sculpt. And speaking of handsome head sculpts, Shockwave. I do like the Siege Seeker mold. The whole, robot balled up underneath the shell is kind of cheeky, I guess we'll go with. But I like this because it's different. I'm actually really into the idea of having a Shockwave figure that looks so distinctly different from other Shockwave figures. So I am into this. The colors, same deal. It's very, very blue, but in robot mode, they break up that color a lot better. Like a lot better. Because now you've got these little white bits for the hinges, but you also get a little bit of white in the knees, you get the thighs, you get the pelvis section. Of course, you've got what's going on in the torso. And even the wings add a little bit of color. And even here with the arms, there's no paint on the arms at all. Well, that's technically a lie, but roll with it for a second. Let's say there's no paint on the arms, but it still goes white, blue, so it breaks up that color, keeps it from getting too monotonous. And now, technically speaking, there is paint on the arms because the fists are painted. These are actually light blue plastic that have been painted white, and they just didn't paint the insides because that's where stuff might peg, like weapons and stuff, which I appreciate. But yeah, pretty basic color scheme. I feel like Shockwave versus Orion Pax in terms of color, Orion Pax is the clear winner here. Shockwave is just so overpoweringly light blue, even with the little accents, but the breakup in this mode is a lot better. And I don't really mind the boosters. I actually think they look kind of cool, but you can angle them back if you want to get them out of the way and just kind of adjust his center of gravity for that. But I don't know, I kind of like them. Now, the head sculpt is, like I said, it's another really handsome head sculpt, which is odd to say for Shockwave, but this works, and I do kind of get senator or politician vibes from him. He looks like the kind of guy who I would absolutely want to... I'm not going to incriminate myself, but he looks like the kind of guy who I would probably not get on with, because he's a politician. And it's got this kind of sanctimonious insufferableness to him that I just kind of get that impression from the angles and swept back nature of the headpiece that almost looks like a crown. I guess it's just a blank expression, but I can't help but feel like it's a little smug. But I really like the sculpting on here, and I also think it's really cool how the way the helmet section frames the face, you've got these little bits that kind of come in and come out, but like they painted the white in that little piece right there. They painted white in there so that it really makes it look like this piece is coming around the face, and I just think that looks really cool. And he also has those light blue eyes, and yeah, I don't. It's a good head sculpt. I think it looks really nice. The coloring is just, yeah, it's good. It's good stuff. And the torso has some really nice molding to it too. That light blue, though, again, like you could see it better here than here, but now you can actually see that it's not white. But yeah, like that on the light blue on light blue just doesn't, it works better here because of the red, but it's still not a great color combination. Now for the articulation, as you saw, the head is on a ball joint, barely get any waggle, get a little bit up and down, and then you can look left and right. Shoulders can go all the way around if the kibble's not in the way. They can go out to 90. Because of the transformation, you get an inward butterfly joint, which is really cool. I mean, it's, you know, this is all standard Seeker, or Siege Seeker articulation, but still, if you're not familiar with it, that's that. You get the bicep swivel because of the way the shoulders or elbows hinge out. You get a double jointed elbow that works really nicely. The wrists actually do rotate. They are separate pieces. You get a waist swivel, but because of all the junk back here, you can't go 180, or you can't go all the way around, but you can get pretty far even with that junk in the way, so I think that's acceptable. Hips can go forward a little bit past 90, can go back to there until the legs start hitting the junk back there, but I think that's fine. You go out to 90, you get a thigh swivel, which when the legs are in, it will knock into the pelvis, but as the leg comes out, you can rotate around pretty freely. You get a single jointed knee that bends in really well, especially if you use this spring-loaded panel to push that in, because, you know, transformation. So a really nice knee bend. The feet can actually go forward and backward, and you get some not significant, but you do get ankle tilts. So articulation on Shockwave is pretty solid. And then you have the winglets, which they don't bother me like they bother other people. As I said and showed in the transformation, you can keep them on throughout the duration. Once they're plugged in, you can leave them plugged in. You can kind of rotate them and fold them down in either direction to get them out of the way. You can move them to other parts of the figure. You can like plug them into his shoulders if you want, which I think that actually doesn't look bad. I don't know what, if anything, is accurate to the IDW design, but I think that actually works pretty well. You can plug them into his legs if you want it. Like, that's a way to kind of get them out of the way too, so that you don't have to look at them. That kind of blends in pretty well, actually. And then I saw on TFW again, someone plug them into the little booster bits back here, which you can do, and you can angle them once they're plugged in. You can angle them like that, and that works pretty well. My concern about that is you're plugging pegs into painted ports, and that is concerning to me. So for now, at least, we're just gonna leave him. Actually, no, we're not going to leave him like that, because there's one other thing that I saw in TFW that I think is worth repeating, and I've already got paint scratches on the hand. Nice. But you can plug the wings into the hand and then angle them so you give him like a little Wolverine claw thing. I think that's pretty cool. That works as like an actual weapon accessory. So there we have Shockwave. Oh, this is going to be more than an hour long. Jeez. Megatron, Minor Megatron. He is... This is good. This I really like. I had my issues that I said a lot with the robot, or with the tank mode, but the robot mode, I've got no complaints about this robot mode. This looks great. The paint and coloring for the robot mode is definitely kind of basic, like we saw with Orion Pax and Shockwave, and we'll see with Ratbat, because the only new details that you get that are painted in the robot mode is the midsection and the head, or rather the chest like the torso and the head. But like you saw the arms, or well, yeah, you saw the arms, you saw the legs. So the paint on this, pretty simple, but the coloring and the breakup on this, I think they do so much with such a simple, small amount of paint. Like, it is stunning how good this looks, considering how little actual paint there is on this thing. And again, I love that kind of cobalt, gray, gunmetal, blue, whatever color this is that they use for primarily most of the body. But then you get some extra accents thrown in with like the lighter gray for the feet and thighs. They actually painted the biceps silver. And that midsection, I love the design up here because this looks like, utilitarian, mining robot chest design, but still has just the slightest bit of Megatron feel with like the little midriff vents and the red accents and just like the plank going across the chest. And that head sculpt, I'll get to that in a second, but like also I really like the shoulder design here because they're kind of basic, but I like this little bit that kind of comes down over the bicep. I don't know why that appeals to me so much, but I just really like that. And then the rest of it, like the forearms and stuff, it's actually the same as the Siege mold, but it's really, really nice. And the head that is such a good head sculpt. It looks more like Megatron than the Siege Megatron does. Like, Siege Megatron looks really good, but the head is kind of like a slightly smooshed down shape, and the face has a little bit of a poutiness to it. This guy looks like a disgruntled employee who's about to start an uprising. And the sculpt on it is fantastic too. It's all these really nice, sharp details all around the helmet. The actual, what is basically an M on the top of the head there, is actually sculpted, but it's also painted in red. They painted all those little details in red. Love the caution stripe going across the top, and that actually feels like that itself is molded as well. Like, the individual lines are molded. And of course, the face. It's a great, no-nonsense face sculpt. The silver pops really nicely. The red eyes stand out pretty well. And it's just a really good face sculpt. Really, really like this. This was a thing that's like, when I got this in, I was like, oh, I'm just going to get the set for Ratbat and then sell off Minor Megatron because I have Siege Megatron, like the Netflix one with all the stickers. But as I started messing around with this guy and looking at him more, it's just like, he just looks so good. Now for the articulation, the head is on a ball joint, but the ball joint is situated towards the back of the neck. So you can look up, look down a little bit, and if you get that panel involved, you can look down more. The panel also, it is a lot stiffer on this version of the mold, and it actually kind of clicks in place when you pull it up, which is nice. You can get rotation. You don't really get any left and right tilt. Arms can go around all the way, can go out to 90. You get a bicep rotation just above the elbow. The elbows bend very slightly past 90, and the wrists can go in, but that's it. The waist can rotate, and it can rotate 180 degrees because this chunk can kind of flap back and out of the way. The hips can go forward to 90, can go back to that far, but also you can fold this out of the way to go back to 90. The inward-outward motion goes a little bit past 90, and on mine, this is a little loose. I've tightened it a bit, which is better, but it's still kind of loose. I might need to go back and tighten it some more. There's the thigh swivel. There is 90, I'd say 90 degrees of bend at the knee. The ankles do tilt quite a bit, and then because of the transformation, you can wiggle the feet back slightly. But yeah, pretty nicely posable. Now, mine did come with the misassembled knees. You can see this is how they're supposed to look, because I fixed it. But like this kind of notch section, this little, like you can see how this is flush and this kind of sets in a little bit. This is supposed to be facing the front of the knee. The way mine were assembled, they were switched. So this was on this side with this piece facing forward and this piece facing back and vice versa. So that meant that the knees couldn't entirely straighten out. They would sit like very slightly like that rather than like that. It's a simple process to fix. You just take that screw out, take this thigh off, take this screw out, take this piece off, so you just have this little section here, and then I use the pin pusher to push this pin through, and then I just swap the pieces to make sure they're aligned properly, and then put everything back together. So really easy fix. If you have that problem and you don't have the means to fix it, like if you don't have a pin pusher or anything you can use in place of that, what I would recommend is don't straighten out the heels like I have here, because these heels actually do straighten out entirely and give him a flat foot, and that works. I prefer to not straighten them out, because if you do that, it gives him just a tiny bit more height, but it also gives him a little bit more of a forward angle, which you can then use to like angle his hips back slightly to give him a slightly more intimidating, heroic stance. But also, if you have the knee problem, it really helps to offset that, because the knees are tilted back slightly, but the heels are tilted forward slightly. So you shouldn't have any problems balancing him if your knees are misassembled, if you just don't click the heels flat. Now, he also comes with his pickaxe, which I love. I love this accessory. It looks great. And that purpley pink that they used is just such a good color for it. And he looks really good holding it. Now, last one, Ratbat. Jeez, why did I decide to do 4? And he is my favorite out of all of them. His deco is still pretty simple. And I ended up running into an issue where his thigh swivels are they're slightly warped. So if I go to rotate the thigh, it just pops off. And I can kind of work with it. You know, if I just hold it in place and rotate, it'll rotate and not pop off, but like, it's not great. It kind of sucks that it does that, but it's also like, there are worse QC problems I could have with this guy. But yeah, like the colors here are the same as with the space boat mode, where it's black and purple. The black and purple are kind of close in tone, so it makes them overall pretty dark, which makes the lighter bits stand out really nicely. But I think the black and purple, especially in robot mode, are separated enough that it still stands out. I do think he could have done with a bit more painted detail, like in the legs, and these little bits in the forearms are just screaming for some kind of paint, possibly something on the insides of the wings here, but overall, I think he looks good. And I can't really complain about him not having any paint, because he's actually covered in paint that is difficult to see, because like all of the shiny black on this guy is paint. So like the fists, you can see the fists are actually purple plastic that's been painted black. The shoulders are actually purple plastic that's been painted black. These bits here, I'm pretty sure, it's hard to see, like I can't actually see anything that indicates that it's painted, but like the shiny plastic does make me think that this is in fact painted. This bit in the midsection here is painted. The pelvis section, I want to say, is also painted, but I can't see for sure. But yeah, he is actually quite more, like compared to his to his pack-in buddy, Minor Megatron, he has a decent amount of paint on him. And yeah, he looks really good. This works really good as Senator Ratbat. And I'm glad I went in on this set. I think everything except the torso and head are the same as Scourge, or in this case the sweep, because it's the left hand that's open. But that's fine. I also think the torso looks really good. He has that kind of weird fancy necklace thing going here with what looks like it could be like a bat or bird face. Has subtlety. But the gold and the light blue stand out really nicely, and that head is so good. It looks so good. It actually made me realize, looking at this head sculpt, how the Mastermind Creations Ultio head sculpt was good, but was a little bit too squished, narrow, and stretched up. This looks a lot better when it's a little bit more rounded overall. Like the overall shape, I mean. Like the face is clearly that big, but like the head having a bit more of an even distribution of mass, I think works really nicely. The sculpt is, once again, fantastic. All two of these sets of 2 or all 4 of these figures have really great head sculpts. And like the silver is great, the yellow eyes pop really nicely, and that little gold bit on top that totally looks like it could be like a stylized bat head is great. The ball joint, as you saw, is actually quite expressive, so you can get some pretty decent left and right tilt, some pretty okay up and down nod, though you can't go back too far because of the very big collar in back. But still. And of course you can turn left and right. The shoulders, let's zoom back out, the shoulders do the typical thing. They can go around, except these bits kind of get in the way. You can fold them out though. So shoulders can go around and go out past 90. You get a bicep swivel. You get over 90 degrees of bend. You get wrist swivels on both hands. You do get a waist swivel. It can't go all the way around, but goes around pretty well, kind of like with Shockwave. The hips can go forward to there until they start crashing into stuff, and then they can go back. With this stuff not in the way, they can go back quite a bit. Can actually go back further than that. There we go. And they can go out to just under 90. As I mentioned earlier, the thigh swivels they go around, but like they want to pop out if you're not careful, just because of the way this molding is working. I don't really know what's up with that, but that is what it is. You get a 90-degree bend at the knee. The feet do not move forward and backward, but they do tilt a bit, and you can also angle the toe and the heel if you need it. So posability, also pretty decent on Ratbat. And then he has his gun, which is a gun, and it is unimpressive, and I'm not super enthusiastic about it, but it's an accessory that he comes with, so whatever. And that will just plug into his hand, and there we go. And so now there we have Senator Ratbat, and he just looks fantastic. And let's bring the whole crew in again for a full comparison of those robot modes, and they look really good. And yeah, can you tell who the bad guys are? Yeah, okay. Almost done, and we are just about to go over an hour, so let's just truck on through it. I'm going to do size comparisons, and going to break it up like I did before. So we're going to start with these two and bring in our typical size comparison team. There is Artfire and Rotor Storm and Burnout and Overprime and Samus. So there you can see how they all stack up. And Shockwave is, about Voyager height. Orion Pax is about Deluxe height. So it all works. And let's get you all out of the way and bring in Ratbat and Megatron. And yeah, Megatron is beefy. So Ratbat is a little shorter than Artfire, and Megatron is noticeably taller than Artfire, and yeah, that's how that breaks out. Breaks out, works, I don't know. I'm tripping over my words because I've been at this for a while, and I'm just so worried about going so far beyond time that people are going to be like, I'm not watching all that. What is this, an H Bomber Guy video? Alright. Keep bumping stuff too. Oh, and Shockwave is down. Oh boy. Hopefully nothing's broken. We will find out, won't we? Okay. I think he survived. He appears to have survived. Yes, okay. Shockwave still is in one piece. So since he's so eager, we'll do our Shockwave, or bonus Shockwave comparison now. So there is Senator Shockwave with Siege or Generation Select's Galactic Man Shockwave. And yeah, quite the difference in overall style. I mean, yes, I know this is gray when Shockwave is traditionally purple, but ignoring the color palette, the actual shape and design of the character, just it's so different. And that's one of the things I really appreciate about this guy. Now, let's move him back off and bring in Orion Pax. As I don't have any Orion Pax figures to make a comparison with, so instead I'm going to bring in one of the more recent primes that I got my hands on. So there is Orion Pax with Studio Series War for Cybertron Optimus Prime. And I feel like even though the aesthetics are drastically different, it's still not that difficult to see how this grows into that, in a manner of speaking. Alright, get you out of the way. And let's do Megatron next. So you out of here. And bring you in here. So there is Minor Megatron with his other, I guess, revolutionary counterpart, RID Warrior Class Megatronus. I know, they're nowhere near the same size class or anything like that, but thematically I think they're kind of similar, right? Also, I'll say it again, this figure is spectacular. If you can get it, get it. But there is Megatron with Megatronus. And lastly, the the comparison that I think is actually the most interesting out of the bunch. There is Senator Ratbat with Senator Ratbat. The Generations, or United rather, I think. The Transformers United Takara release, where they repainted and slightly remolded Thrilling 30 or Generations, whichever was Scourge, as Ratbat. And yeah, it's really interesting. There's a lot of similarities and a lot of differences between the two. And I gotta say, there are certain design elements for this version that I kind of wish they brought over here, like maybe some gold on those forearms, maybe some gold or black like accents in the shins. I don't know. Who knows if I'll end up painting any of this myself in the future, but here's how the two of them look together. And yeah. Oh, this has been such a long video, but one more thing we gotta do. We gotta bring everyone back in so that we can do our final and most important size comparison of the day. Come on, Shockwave. There you go. There we go. So there we have everyone back in the shot. And now, lastly, here is everyone with the duck tank. And that does it for Transformers Legacy, whatever these two packs are called. I can't be bothered to remember. It'll be in the video title. I'm not even going to bother adding a thing at the bottom, because who cares? But it'll be the video title. But yeah, here are these two packs together, and these were... This was an interesting journey. Out of all of these, at first, I only wanted Ratbat. That was the only figure I wanted. Didn't really have much of an interest in Orion Pax and Shockwave, outside of Shockwave being a, interesting and unique take on Shockwave, toy-wise. I know not new, but like, have we ever gotten a Senator Shockwave toy before? I don't think so. So like, yeah, there were some elements that I was interested in, but mostly it was about, or almost entirely about, Ratbat. But as I said, Minor Megatron really grew on me. I really, really love the colors they used for him. The only thing that disappoints me about him, really, is that alt mode. And even that it's not terrible, it's just that the Siege version is so much better. And Shockwave and Orion Pax, they look really, really striking in robot mode. They seem a little bit overly bright compared to Megatron and Ratbat, or Ratbat and Megatron seem overly dark compared to these two. but they do look good. As I said, they're very handsome figures. Shockwave does stand out a little bit because since he is so heavily reused from the Siege Seeker mold, he is covered in minuscule details that the others just don't have. So molding-wise, he stands out a little bit because there's just a lot more texture on his surfaces. But still looks good. I'm just not entirely sure if I want to hang on to Shockwave and Orion Pax or not. Admittedly, it was kind of an impulse buy with them. But I don't know, like Orion Pax is definitely growing on me. Shockwave, I'm not entirely sure yet. I really like the, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. I really like how unique it is to have a Shockwave that actually has a face, but I don't know. I just don't know. I'll have to think about it some more. But, you know, he's not bad. I just don't know that he's right for me, is what I'm saying. But anyway, this video has gone on way too long, so I'm going to stop. Thank you, everybody, for watching. As always, feel free to let me know what you think of any of these figures by chiming in the comments down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And I am filming in batches today like I always do, but I'm definitely taking a break after this video.